All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Mick Hughes and I'm the founder of the ACL Hub, and I've got the honour and the privilege to having a chat with Lily Agg. That's how I say you. Is that,
Yeah,
have I
that's
got that
like,
right, Lily?
yeah,
Lily and I just have briefly met. I've followed her journey. Lily, for those who don't know Lily, she's a UK-based professional footballer. Currently playing and contracted for the Birmingham Women's Football Club, and is a Republic of Ireland international football player, midfielder, can kick a
yeah.
goal, can run around the park, but unfortunately she's injured. She's in the midst of ACL rehab. So, Lily, welcome and thanks for spending some time. I'll happily let you tell everyone a bit more about you and how good you are on the football field. I don't want to butcher a bio by
I
any means. So,
can't remember so long ago. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I followed your page naturally. I think when you do your ACL, you just try and research and look everywhere. My Instagram page was full, and I discovered your page, and there was lots of really interesting information on your page, and again, lots of important knowledge that I was taking from it. So it's really good to connect finally and sort of have this introduction and conversation. I'm now nearly 6 months post-op. So I've
yeah,
been out. I hurt my knee on, I think it was the 5th of January, and
yeah.
then I had my surgery on the 12th. So yeah, that's where I'm at currently. And yeah, we're taking it day by day so far.
Day by day, week by week, and it's interesting. Can you take us back to that moment? Was it in game, or was it a training mishap, or can you tell us? Are you happy to go back and relive it,
Yeah,
and
no, you're
walk us
fine.
through what happened?
Yeah, so to be fair, it was one of those so 5th of January, we just come back. So we had the off season break, if you
Yep.
call it the Christmas break. It wasn't a break.
No.
It was obviously the game, it's getting more and more demanding. The fitness levels need to increase and all of these things. So to be honest, I've played for, I don't know, 25 years now.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've always, I'm very dedicated to doing what's needed. But normally, sort of the Christmas break, especially after playing for the first half of the season, normally I'm 31 now. I've
Yeah.
needed that week, and I would go down to my mum's in Eastbourne, and I would normally put my feet up for a couple of days and take that time. And I'd normally go out on Christmas Day. I'd run, and there'd no specific timings. I'd just run
Yep.
as much as I wanted on that day, just to sort of earn the day in terms of how many
Yeah.
calories I could then
Enjoy
consume.
your Christmas
Yeah.
turkey and whatnot.
But this time I didn't. I actually was like, look, with especially where Birmingham's moving in terms of the level and where we need to be at. I was like, look, I can't have days off. I've got to do the program that I've
Yeah.
been sent. I'm gonna do it. As much as I was
Yeah.
extremely tired and shattered, and a lot in my life leading into sort of that month anyway. I just moved house. I just bought a house with my partner and moved, and stress of that and
Yeah.
tiredness, you name it. But no, I done sort of the off-season program religiously and felt good. I
Yeah.
felt fit. I'd played obviously, as I said to you, the whole sort of first half of the season, so I was tired. I'd ran a lot.
Yeah.
Um, we were back in, so I think we were back in on maybe the second or the first. I think it was the first actually. And we had basically, as always happens, four days of testing. So we had mass testing,
Yep.
running, all the markers that
Yeah.
you do standard.
All the tests to make sure you did the program over the Christmas break.
Yeah, so we were pushed straight away the minute we got back in. And then we done lots of the IKD testing. So
Yep.
we went to university and done, you name it, ISO holds, all real exertion. So we done 3 days of the testing, and then on the fourth day, we were playing a friendly against Wolves. Again, lots of us were moaning because 4 days back to back is quite extreme, to be
Yeah.
honest. We never
Mm.
really normally do that.
Yep.
A Monday off, Tuesday, Wednesday in, Thursday off, Friday. So yeah, we fourth day on, we had the friendly, and back in England at this time in January, it's freezing. So I think it was
Yep.
like -2 the day of the game. It snowed the night before. I got up, so I just moved to Bristol. So I was commuting as well. So it's more about an hour, 10, hour 15
Yep.
drive. So I got up that morning, went in, obviously was feeling tired anyway, moving house,
Mm.
testing, you name it. It was freezing cold. The pitch was rock hard. It probably shouldn't have gone ahead. And they delayed kickoff even longer because of the pitch and getting Wolves
Yep.
there. And then because it was a pre-season game, there was obviously two teams. So first team for the first half, team for the
Yep.
second half. I was second half.
Second half.
So I had to watch in the cold, freezing, to
Yep.
be fair, for an hour. Watch the first half. Then we went into the dome for a quick 5 minute warm up, which is
Yep.
literally what it was. I wasn't warm. I did raise that at the time and said, look, it's a bit of a joke. Like I can't even feel my toes because we done no
Yep.
band work, no nothing. We went straight out, and typically, I'm not saying that's the reason, but I do think there's lots of things within that and the build up that I don't
Yep.
think, to be honest,
Mm.
were great or
Yep.
prepped me in the right way. And yeah, I basically went to go for a header. And I started off the game fine, to be honest. I
Yep.
think I started well, and when you're playing, you're playing.
Yep.
But yeah, I just went to go for a header, and it was contact really. It was a bit of a weird one. So I've
Yep.
gone to head from a goal kick, and the
Yep.
girl has come from the side, and as
Yep.
she's kind of like made contact with me, so say this is my foot, my feet this side, she's caught my left foot here. So
Yes.
she sort of kicked me, and as she's kicked me, rather than planting here, my foot
Yep.
just jolted out.
Just out.
And
Yep.
then
Just
within that
enough.
second. So that was all it was. It was one of them. I felt the contact on my foot and it just kind of jolted it and straight away. And yeah, I mean,
And
I'm sure people tell you it's something that you see it all the time. Like I said, I've played for 25 years now,
yeah.
and I thought, oh, I'm going to get through my career without doing the dreaded one. And here
Yeah.
we are. It's something that
Yeah.
you just kind of you don't really think it's going to happen to you. And then the minute you just feel this pain in your knee, you're just like,
Yeah.
that's me. I've done it.
That's
And
you. Did you,
yeah,
was that your immediate response? Did you kind of have this heart sinking moment that you knew what it was? Did you feel the pop or the crack that everyone talks about?
yeah. So to be honest, the way I would describe it, I felt like my knee dislocated.
Yep.
I felt like my knee completely shifted and was just
Yep.
in the ground. My whole body sort of shifted over.
Yep.
And then I screamed and went, ah, and then I just laid sort of on the floor holding my knee, and I
Yep.
rolled round and I just sat up, and then the
Yep.
physio come on, and I just remember going, I've done my knee, I've done my knee. And
Yeah.
then I'm saying out loud, I've done my knee, I've done my knee. And then I just started crying tears, but
Yeah.
not even pain. It was more
Yeah. It's emotional.
realization. I was like, I've done my knee, and they were like, look, don't think like that, did it? And I just was like, I've done it. I know it. Like
Yep.
I can't even explain it to you. I just was like, yeah, done. So I
Yeah.
just got up, hobbled off to the changing room. Obviously,
Yeah.
the game carried on as normal, and I just showered and cried, and then drove myself back to Bristol crying. That was yeah.
Oh Lord. Oh, it's tough to hear. It's always tough hearing. It's one thing to see it, but then to sort of, hear that insight, like you don't often get that. You sort of read the media reports and you hear you hear the stories or you hear this, that, and the other, but to actually sort of hear and see that build up and, yeah, you're right. Arguably any of those little sort of things along the way, but all in the end, all it took was, your opponent, and that's what, that mechanism is what we'd call an indirect contact. Sorry, yeah, indirect contact. So there's no direct physical contact to the outside part of your knee, but there's that perturbation, there's that bump in space. So yes, no one sort of hit you, took you out, but it's not by definition a non-contact injury either, where you're changing direction and someone shot you from the stands with a sniper rifle. Like it was, there's something there where it just didn't quite sort of help you on the day. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. Like that's yeah, it's pretty tough to hear, but and to know that already, like because you would have seen numerous sort of teammates go down over your time, and you hadn't had one prior to that, like no other
No,
serious knee
I've never.
injuries.
Yeah, no.
No.
similar motion. The ground was rock hard, and
Mm.
my knee sort of hyperextended.
Yep.
And there was a loud crunch. And at the time, this was 5, 6 years ago, everyone thought, oh, she's done her ACL, she's done her ACL. And miraculously, I didn't. I had a tibia plateau fracture.
Okay. Mm.
So sort of obviously that's the knee. It shifted back.
Yeah.
And it looked obviously a bit deformed.
Yeah.
And again, at the time, all those years ago, it was difficult coming back from that. And I remember at the time with physios back then, and everyone was telling me to put weight through it. Everyone was like, look, we know you've done your ACL whilst we're waiting on the scan, start trying to put weight through it. And I was
Yep.
like, I think I'm good with pain. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was putting my foot down and I was going, oh, I can't. Like, I actually can't. And everyone's like, oh, come on, Neil. Like, just get the move in. And I was like, look, something's not quite right.
Yeah.
It's it's not great. Like, and
Yeah.
then eventually I got my results back and the doctor saw me and he said, everyone telling you to put your foot down. He's like, if you carried on trying to walk through it, he's like, you'd have needed a rod through
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
knee.
Yeah.
So you trust in your body and how you felt. And again, I was just like, oh my God, isn't it crazy? Like these small margins. So it was a blessing ultimately that I didn't do my
Yeah.
ligaments, but again, that
Yeah.
was a tough injury. But to be honest, these are the only two
Yeah. Big ones.
injuries I've had. I'd like to say I try and look after my muscles and my body. And
Yep.
I've been quite lucky over the years that I've played. Of course, I've had niggles, but nothing
Yep.
major. And I think I was maybe out for 7 months with that one before because there
Yep.
was a few issues with it. But yeah, and now I've
Yep.
done it this time.
Yep. Was it the same knee?
It is the same knee.
Same knee.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I also do think, this knee since that injury has never quite been the same. And
Yep.
certain things with my tracking of the
Yep.
knee, my patella,
Yep.
it's never been the same. And
Yep.
I'd always refer to this as my bad knee
Yeah. Okay.
prior.
Yep. Yep.
Makes sense. So lots of, I'd say, um, accumulation of a lot of
Yep.
things. It's probably
Yeah.
why I'm today.
Yeah. And has there been any family history with ACLs? We know there's at least some genetic
No,
family. Your mum or
no,
dad, brothers or sisters, no family members
no,
of it. Yeah.
no, nothing. My mum was, she done gymnastics, but no one in the family
Yep.
really played football at all,
Yep.
and no injuries.
Yep. So injuring it on the 5th and then surgery on the 12th, was it planned to go into surgery that soon, or what was the sort of thinking and the kind of rationale at that stage? Was there ever any discussion about let's sort of rehabilitate for a little bit, or let's just get in there as soon as possible because, in 9 months' time we've got a big major sporting event, or was you just, yeah, 'cause it's always fascinating when we're dealing with professional athletes, the decision to have a surgery done within a matter of days, or can we sit on it for a few weeks because there's no outside external pressures? What was that like for you at that time?
Yeah, to be honest, there wasn't really any discussion. It was more, I had the phone call confirmation I'd done the ACL, which I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, no, cool, I know. And then the club, to be fair, were really good. They just said, look, we've got a guy who's brilliant. You're going to go and see him. He's one of the best surgeons.
Yeah.
We're going to get you in. You're going to go see him, and then we'll see what dates he can do. I went to see him. He was happy with how the knee looked. I obviously at the time it did swell up, but it wasn't compared to quite a lot of people's knees. I think
Mm.
even worse. It settled down in terms of the swelling relatively quickly. And he just said, look, I'm happy. I've got, I'm free on
Yep.
this day. He just said, I'm happy to get in there ASAP and get you back on the mend. And I think naturally when I'd done it, I didn't, your niece, you can walk about and it actually starts to feel all right. It's a bit of a weird feeling, but naturally you just want to crack on and get surgery
Yep.
and then you can go. So that's what happened. Got a date, got a slot, went in for the surgery and yeah, got it done as quick as possible.
Yep. And what have you had done? Have you had a hamstring graft, patella tendon? What procedure did you
Yeah,
get done?
patella tendon with lateral tenodesis.
Yep. Cool. And how are you finding that? Like, well, the first few days, if you can sort of go back, rewind maybe the first, 5 months ago when you're in that midst of that, what first 1 month post-op when you got the graft harvest
Tough.
soreness, the swelling, the pain, all that kind of stuff. Can you, yeah, tell us what that experience was like in the first month?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the minute I woke up, obviously from surgery, my mum, bless her, she'd come to be with me, and of course, you've got some nice medicines that are helping you, and you get yourself home, and it's just leg up, and yeah, the pain sort of then sinks in. It's one of them. it's so difficult to not be able to do anything. You can't go and get yourself a drink. You can't really do a lot of anything, which going from being so active is probably the hardest part. My biggest thing that helped me was keeping on top of the medicines. I'm normally someone I
Yep.
don't even like taking paracetamol for a headache, but with
Yep.
this, I was like, look, you need every sort of help you get. And if you're someone that's a bit like, oh, I don't want to take tablets, every time I didn't take tablets on the time frame or
Mhm.
didn't take medicines, the pain I was in was honestly, it was excruciating.
Yep.
So in the end, I was like, no, I'm gonna just keep on top of it regularly, and that really helped me. So that's definitely something I would recommend. Don't try and be stronger than,
Yes.
having the medicines. They help. Let's get
Agree.
this down. I had the game ready, which was really useful, and I just honestly spent all day every day just in the ice, taking my medicines, watching
Yep.
Netflix, feeling a bit sorry for myself.
Yep.
But just that was it, day by day. And like I said, I'd try and eventually, as I could get off the crutches or moving around gradually day by day, get a bit easier. But
Yep.
it definitely took at least a month of just, gosh,
Yep.
this is not
Yep.
fun.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how even like general population should be managed. General population elite athlete, a knee's a knee that's had an ACL injury and has had surgery coupled really close together. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of inflammation, there's a lot of bleeding. Two big traumas whacked onto the knee really closely to each other. It's going to be very, very sore. And I firmly believe, like in that first month, it's almost like a hands-off approach. The person, the athlete, let them, yeah, medicine, 100%, Panadol, anti-inflammatories, you will, yeah, whatever, your ice compression, all those little things to work on the swelling. I've seen firsthand that if you front of mind think about controlling pain, controlling swelling, you're going to get such a head early on if you're going in there trying to do a lot of exercise early, a lot of weight bearing, a lot of contractions. It can just fire up the environment even more. It can sometimes really delay your process. So yeah, fascinating to hear that. Yeah, it was a very gentle approach because those patella tendons. I've never had an ACL reconstruction, I must admit, but having worked with a lot, patella tendons tend to be the ones that are really cranky early, that front
Yeah.
of kneecap pain, and then also to the LET, the lateral tenodesis procedures, that extra bit of soreness on the outside part of the knee. It's like two extra now sore bits that you have to manage. So I can certainly empathize. It's not a fun start.
I think a key part of that as well, especially in the early stages. So of course I'd been given a complex, I'd been given obviously exercises daily to do. And I think again a big learning part for me is listening to your body. So most people that play sport, we are pretty strong. I'd like to think we go through a lot, we put our bodies through a lot. And some of the days to start with when I tried to put the complex on and I was lifting the leg and trying to move it, the pain I was in, I was like,
Mhm.
do you know what? And
Yep.
it's one of them, you have to find the balance between thinking I've been told to do this, it's got to be
Yep.
right, and thinking this is making me feel worse. And
Yep.
one of the biggest things I struggled with, especially when I'd done my exercises, was sleep at night. I
Yep.
couldn't sleep because of the pain I was in.
Yep.
I obviously took the game ready to bed, and my knee was just throbbing, and it's a pain that I couldn't really describe. But the minute I sort of settled down on my exercises and just I
Yep.
felt like I was being lazy, but I wasn't. I just was in the end, I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yep.
I started to sleep better, and naturally the need, I could just feel it settling more. So
Yep.
I felt a bit guilty being like, oh, I didn't actually do them today. But the reality is I was just then trusting my body that I shouldn't have been doing them. And that's something that I have actually learned throughout this journey, is that just trust your body, and
Yep.
discomfort's okay, but pain
Mm.
is, it shouldn't be painful. And if you're doing things that are too painful, take a step back.
Yep. I had a chat just recently with another ACL expert, and we kind of came to this weird conclusion that we'd love to run a study where we've got one group of athletes who don't do anything for a month, and we've got like literally just ice and compression, no formal program, no exercise, just let your body kind of do its thing. And then you got another group who do a standard post-op protocol, and where do they end up at 3 months, 6 months,
Yeah.
9 months, and 12 months? Do they end up at the same spot? they probably do. We just it'd just be a hard thing to fund, and a hard thing to probably get through ethics. But it'll be. But agree, like yeah, like those messages are really clear. Like you know your body better than anyone, and that I think that also to that comment about sleep. Like if you're constantly bashing yourself into rehab and you're doing this and doing that, and you are getting sore and you can't get good night's sleep, there's obviously something that's happening through the day. And this is what we talk about with a lot of injuries. It's not just ACLs, it's any given injury we come across in the clinic. If what you're doing is making you sore that you can't sleep, what you're doing through the day is too much. So we need to dial it back. And some people need to strip it back down to zero. Some people maybe just need to cut it in half. But there needs to be a change, and you just can't keep running into a brick wall doing the same thing over and over again. It's madness. So yeah, that's really interesting insight. So yeah, gold. So it sounded like, was there any major hurdle, like obviously sleep and pain, and was there any restriction with range of movement or any problems with that? I have experienced in the past people get quite a stiff knee when they have injury and surgery close together. They actually get this knee that just won't bend past 60 or 70 degrees. Did you experience any problems with range of movement early?
Yeah, so again, I think, look, and this is something that's always difficult and the tricky part, I guess, of rehabbing and ACL, especially at the elite level, is, you are told, and again, physios, there's very much this focus on quads. We don't want to lose your quad strength. And, I remember, so like I said to you, the first probably 3 months, I slept terrible and I was really pushing. I mean, I think after 2 weeks, I was back in at Blues. So 2 weeks of surgery, I was back in, obviously for some range of movement and to have a look at and a bit of massage and scar tissue, but then trying to grow this quad and all of this stuff. And I remember being in, like as I said to you, a lot of pain and
Yeah.
really struggling. The first 3 months were probably the hardest for me in the sense of like I'm being told to do this and I'm lifting this, and exactly what you said, the range wasn't great.
Mm.
But naturally I'm like, well, look at the swelling in my knee. Like
Yeah.
you're asking me to extend it
Yeah.
and I can't.
Yeah.
But we're still pushing and we're
Yeah.
still trying to focus on the quad. And I remember I saw my surgeon at the 3 month mark, and he was brilliant. And he basically just said to me, he was like, what have you been doing? And he was like, your knee's angry. He was like,
Yeah.
you've got an angry, sore, red knee. He's like, I can feel it from here. He was like, you're doing too much. So
Mm.
he was like, we need to completely strip back. So he's like, not even cycling, none of this. He was like, we're
Mm.
aggravating the tenodesis. And
Yeah.
I think you'll have seen being, a professional within the ACL of like all these different methods of the
Mm.
surgery. So people with the hamstring graft recover a lot quicker. This
Yeah.
patella, it's a lot more difficult. And now this kind of add-on of the lateral tenodesis.
Mm.
So they say, oh, I remember being told, I think it was 4 weeks, like I should have extension by now. And I remember saying, like, and getting really upset about it, saying,
Mm.
you're
It's not
making
my
me feel
fault,
so much. What do you want me to do? And I remember, the pain of having my leg forced, daily to just
Mm.
get that extension. And again, thinking like that's one of the most excruciating pains I've had to be in. And I've
Mm.
broken a lot of bones over the years, but that's
Mm.
the method that we're told is like, no, it's worth it. You need to get it. And it wasn't until the 3 month mark where Tim, my surgeon, said, look, you're going to do nothing. He was like, you're not going to do bike. You're not lifting any weights. You're going to go completely back to basics.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he said that
Mm.
then when I went back into Blues and my physios, we done that and I completely deloaded for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And one, my knee felt the best it was.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of the pain I was having. The swelling completely went down.
Yeah.
And my extension then happened.
Magically got extension.
I got extension. I felt good. I felt
Yeah.
like, oh, my knee's starting to look like a knee. And, at the time you think, oh, is it a setback? And I obviously was very stressed of like, well, I've been told to do all
Yeah.
this. It's really difficult to comprehend your emotions of, am I then
Yeah.
behind? Have I done too much? Have I been overloaded? All of these
Yeah.
thoughts go into your mind. Who do I listen to? Surgeon, my physios
Yeah.
say this. It's so difficult. And obviously
Yeah.
I'm a senior player now, so I can only imagine how difficult it is for young girls
Very
coming
young
through.
one.
And it's a complete mind of you just don't even know. So it wasn't until after that I've sort of now just been like, look, I'm not even going to focus on being ahead, being behind. I'm not going to have this marker. I'm
Yep.
just going to go on how I feel day to day. And I think that's
Yep.
given me the most kind of clarity and peace of mind of
Yep.
like, this is my journey. I'm going to
Yep.
stop comparing when they got their extension, what
Yes.
surgery they had when they're back, because everyone's is so different. And I just think like, different people's knees react to different things. What some people do and worked for them doesn't work for everyone. And I
Yep.
think that's a key part of this rehab journey is he's recognized and saw my knee for how it was, not just going off the guidelines of, oh, you should have your
Yes.
extension sign or because
Yep.
again, I remember saying, well, who do you know then that got their extension in 4 weeks? And people be
Yep.
like, well, the research says. And I wanted to be like, okay, well, was
Yep.
that hamstring people? Because I don't
Yep.
know anyone that's done their patella lateral
Yep.
tenodesis that has the extension. And it's sort of,
Yep.
you constantly are questioning then where you're at.
Yep.
So that's what I would say as well with everything. Just trust your body,
Yep.
and it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
If I was to do my ACL again, I would do a kind of what you said and
Yep.
relax for the first,
Relax the first month or
not have
so.
this force, get you back, because too much too soon, I think, is
Yep.
one of the biggest problems. And as mentioned, everyone has this obsession with quad and strength, and that'll come back, but your
Yep.
range and the knee settling is the key. And ultimately, you
Yep.
can't push through pain.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And really good messages there, particularly like with that, I guess that tug of war that you're having early is just like, I mean, were you comparing yourself against other people that had been through the journey before? Or was it kind of all, internalized pressure where you as a senior player feeling like you should be leading by example and being there? Where was that kind of, I guess, that pressure and yeah, and how did you deal with that? Did you have like, were you seeing psych at the same time, or were you leaning on some, some
Yeah,
mates or family? Like, yeah, how'd you manage that psychological
yes. So
side
I
of things?
think naturally, and again, everyone's different, but
Mm.
as I said to you, I followed, and again, a bit weird, but since doing my ACL, I've sort of made a list of everyone that's done it because,
Yeah,
again, I want to follow their journey and see how they're getting on and
yeah,
what they were doing. And it becomes a bit of an obsession, right?
yeah,
It's your everyday life. So I would follow lots of players that have done it and look at their posts from like 3 months and be like, oh, what exercises were they doing? And then I'd look and think, oh, well, I didn't do that. Oh, hang on a minute. Like, should I be doing that one? Like, that
yeah,
looks quite a good one. Like, that's how your brain thinks. And you just constantly compare and say, and a quote from my surgeon was like, what I don't understand with physios, he was like, there's say, especially with ACL rehab, he was like, there's say, you know, a movement, an exercise. And he was like, a physio might know six that
yeah,
work it. Actually, there's 200.
yeah,
And he was like, those six might not work for one person. So he's like, it's about adapting to personnel. It's not just one direction for one. He's like, there's of course guidelines, but everyone's different, whether
yeah,
that's a male, a female, younger, older. And I found that really interesting. So, like I said, I did become a bit obsessed with looking at everyone's journey and sort of
mm,
wanting to follow and see. But the biggest thing for me, as I said, is actually taken away from that. Of course, it's still good to knows and pinch some ideas,
yeah,
but actually, I'm now just like, I'm going to go off what I think. And another thing that's helped me is just getting as many opinions help. So, yes, I'm using my physio. Yes, I'm using my surgeon, but also I'm then saying to other people that have been through it, what helped them, or
yeah,
other physios that I know from before that have an opinion, or because actually all knowledge is good knowledge and not to get too much information, but also different opinions is okay. And to
yeah,
then say, oh, actually, well, I've really struggled with that. I might try the one that you've just suggested because what's the harm?
yeah,
So I've done that quite a lot and I felt now a lot better because probably for the first time, my quad I feel is finally working. Whereas before I felt like I was doing so many exercises that were
yeah,
just aggravating my knee,
yeah,
not
yeah,
actually working and really isolating my quad. And I've almost had to go back again,
yeah,
take a step back of like, I'm not lifting heavy. I wasn't doing that. I've really gone back to basics of, working the quad, but that's actually something that's really worked for me. And I feel like my
yeah,
quad's now finally in a good position.
yeah,
And then in regards to just sort of mindset and leaning on people, I don't really talk about things. I'm just like, oh, I'm fine, I'll get on with it. Like that's just me. That's my
Yeah.
mindset. And I've obviously had offered from the club to see the psychologist and things like
Mm.
that. But it's just something that I'm just like, you have choices in life, right? You
Yeah.
either can feel sorry for yourself and we go one way, or again, you have to go, look, it's bloody tough, but
Yeah.
it's a new day and you got choices. And I think that's the way I look on life is every day we have choices and you either become better and you push through, or you fit. And don't get me wrong, there's been days where I've not been able to push through and I've been like,
Yeah.
these are right off. And that's
Yeah.
also okay.
Yeah, it's
But
fun.
I have continuous choices every day to go, no, even if I'm making that tiny, tiny step forward, that's what I'm going
Mm.
to do today. And my mum is like my best friend. I speak to her constant and
Yeah.
she feels my pain probably more than me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm one that I constantly kind of confide in and she knows I'm struggling, but she'll just be like, I know you don't want to say it, but keep going. Today's a new day and sends me sort of motivational quotes or
Awesome.
some clips of me playing before, like remember how good you are and things like that. And that sort of helps me. But I'm
Yeah.
not really one to openly speak about the struggle or where I'm at. I'm just sort of like, I'm fine. I'll
Yeah.
crack on with it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's it's nice to sort of hear that, like how important that, well, family. I think that's often that connection to, it may not be, you may not be ready to speak to psych, or you don't want to speak to psych or other athletes to sort of, let them know how you're feeling, but definitely that connection to friends or family, I think is super important because it often just, ACL injury often just gets put down as it's a muscle thing. It's part of your body, but the knock-on effect to mental health is huge. We've seen it a lot, especially with young athletes who have their favorite activity taken away from them, especially teenagers and early 20, mid 20s. It's like the things that make them happy and gives them joy, all of a sudden now it's just ripped away. So, yeah, has there been things like throughout rehab early, we're now 6 months in, have you found fun moments again? Like, have you had a ball at your feet? Are you, doing juggling with your other foot? Are you, like, what kind of fun things have you tried to find, and what little silver linings have you found along the way? Because it sounds like it has been a bit cloudy and a bit sad at times. What silver lining moments have you found so far?
Yeah, I think like what you just said, it's been super tough. And yeah, I'm not, everyone told me, and that's advice from people that messaged when I first done it, being like, along the way, like really celebrate the small wins,
Mm.
Lily. I try and again, I'm someone that's like, you know, I'm not going to celebrate until I'm back. Like
Yeah.
that's me. Like I do want to enjoy those moments, and I know I need to be better. And I'm very like, I don't know how to explain me as a person. I'm like, I'm in the gym, I'm doing it, but I'm like, oh, this is fucking shit.
Yeah.
That's just real. I'm just there saying it. And I'm like, oh God, like, because that's sort of what helps me in a weird way.
Yeah.
Just being like, not going to beat around the bush and be like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I'm just going to
Yeah.
go, it's as it
Yeah.
is, but we'll get
Yeah.
through it. And
Yeah.
that's something I do need to be better at. But I think so weirdly the other day, because I said to you, I'm nearly at the 6 month mark,
Mm.
and I won't go into it again too much, but I kind of had the go ahead, I guess, to run
Awesome.
at a while back. And again, knowing my body, I didn't feel ready to run at
Yeah.
all.
Okay.
I hadn't really had there's not really any markers that suggested I should be running. I
Yep.
kind of said, well, I'll be honest, I don't feel confident. Like my left leg is way weaker than my right.
Yeah.
Like I get that you have these benchmarks of when we should run and 4 months and all of this, but I'll be honest, like I need to see some numbers or I need to see
Yeah.
because I believe if I was to be tested, I would be way where I shouldn't be
Yeah.
anywhere near it. And I wasn't doing, I look on your page as an example and I'm no
Mm.
physio, but it will say, can you do this many single leg hops and things like that?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm not even single leg hopping. I'm not doing any of that. And I was
Yep.
thinking I could barely single leg squat through full
Yep.
range. So I don't think I should be running.
Yep.
So I took a step back from that and like I said, I told my physios that and they were supportive and understanding, said no, they do get it, but
Yeah.
they still believe I can do this. But I just
Yeah.
said like, you see how many people redo their ACL or the other
Yep.
leg goes. And actually, with so much asymmetry right now, I don't feel comfortable running. I'm putting
Yeah.
all the weight. through my right, and
Yeah.
I'd hurt my calf a little bit on my right leg
Yeah.
again, and I'm like, I'm clearly overcompensating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've sort of stripped back. So again, I kind of felt like, oh, I'm backwards again, but that's just where I was at. And
Yeah.
then the other day I asked, because I'm now like increasing again. So we're not
Yeah.
running still. I've told them I don't want to run until this quad gets stronger. And I've
Yeah.
asked for testing, so actual real numbers and
Yep.
facts,
Yep.
because I can't just be
Yeah.
told, oh, go run.
Yeah. Because was that conversation based purely on time or a timeline in the protocol, or where did that conversation come
I
from?
think obviously timeline, I think they just think I'm looking good. I've done some tests. So for example, I've done like the adductor on the force frames and
Yeah.
my adductors were good. But again,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I haven't hurt my adductors. They should be
Yeah.
good. Like,
That should be
it's
strong.
my hamstrings and
Yeah. My
we have no
quads,
knowledge of,
calf. Yep.
yeah, we have no knowledge of my quads or hamstrings.
Mm.
So that's where it was at. But
Yeah.
then the other week, I basically was back in the gym and we're increasing. I think my quad has got stronger. And luckily, this week is the start of the new season. So all the players are back in and
Yep.
everyone's getting the IKD testing.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
cool.
finally am getting an IKD test. Obviously, I've asked for that for a while, but it's as it is. But I'm finally getting it. And, you know, it'll be very interesting to see where I am
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
in
for
terms
sure.
differences. But I asked this week because what you said, I'm 6 months and I've not touched a ball. I haven't done anything. So
Yep.
silly. But I asked for, I'm stood in the gym doing, balancing. I said, can we reintroduce balancing? But can I kick a ball and do some
Yeah.
volleys?
Yeah.
Because I went away to my friends for like a few days and in the garden with them, I was just stood and I was like, oh, pass me the ball because
Yeah.
I missed it. But I didn't kick with my left foot at the time because
Yep.
I didn't even know if I was allowed.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm not going to do it. I just balanced on it. But then in the
Yep.
gym the other day, they were like, no, you can do it. And so I was like, well, can I have this introduced?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
please kick the ball every day for
Yep.
balances. So
Yeah, just give me a little bit of just give me a little win.
so I've asked for that in my program now, just every day that I'm doing literally just standing, balancing different range of volleys and side volleys. But I felt great doing it the other day, and I was like, oh, I'm ready to volley it far. Like, let me go over there. But that was probably one of the smallest wins, but it was something that
Yeah.
I asked for
Yeah.
to include and
Yeah.
so on. But it was a nice moment, and I was like, oh, I can kick a ball. I do remember what
Yeah.
that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I think the next stage, of course, I just want to run. But
Yeah.
naturally, I think once I'm running and I feel a lot stronger, I'll be then boots back on and you can then do a lot of kicking the ball. And that will make me a lot happier
Yeah.
than the 6 month that's been previous.
Yeah, and that's I think well with some experience on board here, the patella tendons are historically slow out of the blocks. Whether or not you've heard this conversation already or seen it, but you often are meeting your milestones a little bit later than most, but you come home really strong at the end. So if you're at this level now, you're feeling like you're close. Yeah, it's probably not too far away. But yeah, it's interesting and it's good insight too. Like you know, because I think most people in your position would have just ran with that opportunity. It's like I've been told to run, I'm going to run, but not really think about the consequences. Like I think, maybe if you went back in time, maybe 5 or 6, 10 years ago, you probably would have taken that opportunity and ran from it. And next thing you know, you're, pinging a calf on the other side or making the other knee cranky. And that's what would happen. You're unlikely to hurt your ACL on that affected side. You make the knee really sore. Unlikely to tear your ACL running straight lines on the other side, but you will overload your calf like that, Achilles like that, hamstring like that. So, it's only a matter of time before something kind of gets cranky. So, yeah, it's a very mature decision to know within yourself and go, you know what, I actually don't feel like I can run. So, yeah, give me some numbers and
Yeah.
prove to yourself and prove to the rest of your team that you actually are in a position where you can handle some straight line
I
stuff.
think that's something that is a real difficult like when do you know is the
Mm,
right time? Okay,
mm,
and obviously you have professionals, so you're told, yeah, you're good to do it. And exactly that, right? Of course I want to run. Like I feel
mm.
like I've not burnt a single calorie for the last however long. Nothing compares to running, whether it's
Yeah,
the bike, you name it. But I think the difficulty is again, I see so many people returning to play and they post, running, back running. And I look and I watch them and I think, well, I can tell it's your right knee. I
Yeah.
watch it, I can tell it's your left knee. And I know people are like, no, it's fine. You're not going to hurt your ACL. It's getting the gait and the mechanics. But also, I'm like, I don't want to start running when I'm
Mm.
compensating and I look out of shape and I don't feel good. Like, I get that we have to build up and so on. But also, I'm like, naturally, I'm nervous. I'm scared,
Yeah.
probably as well, because I see so many people redo it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, well, there's different data, and I know, and that's again something different, right? You have a protocol probably that you have a return to play, but you
Mm.
also assess players in person, right?
Yeah.
Other people will have a different protocol and a return to play. So, for
Mm.
example, I read yours the other day, and it was like 15 da 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 hops, and it was like 15 single leg da da da, and then it said something like asymmetry
Mm.
70% or
Yeah.
something like that. And again, there's a mix of different. So, for example, other people have said, well, you need to be within 20%
Yeah.
asymmetry for your quads.
Yes.
And so there's such a
Yeah. It's
vast,
huge, huge opinions and
it's so
numbers.
hard to know, if someone's telling you, should you just do it? So I probably could have just been fine and carried on running, and my pain might have got a bit better and it might have been a bit sore for one day and then
Mm.
rest and it could go again. But I'm just like, until I sort of see numbers where
Mm.
I'm thinking my legs are starting to get stronger and better, I just don't see the need to run. Like, I think I'll get my CV fitness back at a later date. Of course, for
Yes.
my
Agree.
minute,
Yeah.
it will be good. But also I'm like, I'm not gonna rush such a tough movement and such load through my body if I don't feel fully strong. But it's very difficult to know, well, what is the actual markers or what are, because
Yeah.
everyone's so varied. So I really struggle with that. When is going to be the right time, or when should I go, okay, yeah, I trust you now, let me do it.
That's right. Let you do it. Yeah. For what it's worth, I find it's quite interesting that number specifically. Like, is recent. Some papers will say 60% symmetry is the earliest point where people can run successfully. 70% tends to be probably the standard number that will come across in most papers. The most recent guidelines are saying 80% being the kind of like the bar we should be setting. And I would comfortably say if someone is getting up around 80% symmetry between sides on any of our strength or performance tests, when they start running, they'll still be running in a month's time. The
Mm.
60 and 70 percenters, it's a toss of the coin. Like it'll be a 50-50. So half of them that will start running will be still running in a month. The other half would have already broken down with some kind of niggle and have now gone out the back a month. And now they're, probably 1 to 2 months before they're back at this stage again, ready to try to run again. So it's such a gamble. If you've got tight timelines, you can, like it's a gamble you're probably not unwilling to take. If you've got the luxury of time, you could probably mess around with a little bit, but it is a huge gamble.
Clarify, when you obviously then say 70% symmetry, you mean 30% can vary. So you've got to
Yes.
be with 30%. So say, for example, um, I don't know, my left was 110
Yeah.
and my right was then 180.
Mm.
And obviously breaking it down. So as long as it's within 30% range, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if yeah, usually it's your quad strength is probably the main, because there's also two heaps of things we could throw at you, but we
Yeah.
probably know quad and calf are going to be the ones that are going to
Mhm.
influence your knee joint when you run more than
Yeah.
any other thing. So if we're going to do any kind of testing, so as long as your quad strength on your affected side is within 20 to 30% of the
Yeah.
other,
I don't think, obviously, I haven't done my IKD
yeah,
yet. I highly doubt my IKD is
yeah,
within 30%. That's
yeah,
just the reality. Like, I
you'll
really don't
you'll,
think it will
you'll
be.
see next week.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point because what and it sort of leads into my next one is that um, female footballers in particular probably face a little bit more of a professionalism mismatch whereby the men tend to sort of have the luxury of the IKD test at the click of their fingers, being jetted over to Aspetar in Doha to get all the fabulous resources and facilities thrown at them at the drop of a hat. What's been your experience? And, like I could imagine, have you, yeah, encountered that mismatch in resources, professionalism? Because we see it here in Australia. We see it and I've no doubt probably seen many female athletes not get the same level of service, so to speak, as what the men do. Yeah, if you're happy to share your experience.
Yeah. So funny you mentioned obviously Aspetar in Doha. So my surgeon, when I went to see him, and this was after I kind of had the phase where I'd been a bit overloaded and
Mm.
we sort of stripped it back a little bit. He actually had suggested, he was like, I know Ender King very well. He was like, I really think you would benefit from going over to Aspetar. And I
Awesome.
was but and my physio is with me, and he was obviously like, you should go to and do some of the workshops because like it's brilliant, like you'll learn loads from there. And I was like, yeah, well, let's do it. I'd be
Let's
up
do it.
for this.
Yep.
And obviously again, I said, well, you know, give me more details and we'll take it back to the club and
Yep.
ask and find
Yep.
out. And obviously I knew it would obviously cost a fair bit and
Mm.
so on, but as you probably said, if it was the men, I can imagine they would have happily just gone.
Yep.
But I asked my physio within a week. So I was like, look, I even said I'd be more than happy to pay like half myself, genuine.
Yep.
I'd pay half myself and let's do it if that's what's best for me. But the club, I think she raised it further. I don't know who she spoke to, but they said no. It's not something they can do. And they also then said it's not something that they believe would be beneficial because they think I have access to everything here and stuff. So I was like, look, okay, it's fine. Like obviously I said I would be willing to pay some or whatever, but it got shut down pretty quickly. And I
Yep.
can imagine if it was a man in the men's first team, if that was what's best, they would have absolutely have gone. But
Yep.
having said that, I do think we are well supported and we have good facilities. They've definitely got better and the club are really investing, which is brilliant. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yep.
But I do think there's obviously still a mix of challenges
Mm.
and those differences. So again, I don't know if it's that I've not had an IKD test up until this point, if it's because they can't get the resources, or I don't really know because we're obviously getting them on this Friday as a whole
Yep.
team and
Yep.
testing. So I don't know if it's just they haven't wanted to do that with me, or
Yep.
I don't actually know. No one's sort of said.
Do you have to
Um,
go? Is it that done at a university or is there special testing facilities? They
yeah,
don't have a machine at the club or any kind of other testing
no,
systems in the club?
no, we don't have one at the club. So we go to a university. That's where we're going on Friday. So yeah, I don't know if it's that I just couldn't have gone or whatever, but
Yep.
like I said, I haven't done any of that yet. We have some force plates and the valve
Yep.
stuff in-house. So again, I've asked to do more stuff on that
Yeah.
to
Awesome.
age. And we done testing last week because again, I sort of had asked for a bit more input on where I'm at, and there's a lot of mix of things. So, like one example, I'd done a single leg squat with my left and my right, and the first thing was like, oh, it's only 4% asymmetry, and I was like, but then what are the other two? Because
Mm.
it doesn't feel good. And then the other one was, I think, my depth and maybe the range or something else, and they were like 50% and 53%.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Big,
I was
big
like,
differences.
we're using the metric 4%, but the others are 50 and 53%. So again, it's all very subjective to like,
Yep.
I don't know, you can sort of use that data differently. But again, I was just like, well, I'm 50% difference. And yes, this is my bad knee before, and my range probably wasn't as great, but
Yep.
50% and 53%. Because basically I really struggle still to just load the knee in a single squat
Yep.
position.
Yep.
Single leg squat's probably the hardest exercise, and it's a certain range. So if I get lower and go into say a lunge, I'm
Yep.
actually okay there. But if I hold it at the higher point, I really struggle. And
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
that weirdly showed up before I done the knee when I had my IKD testing that
Yeah.
week. So
Right.
I
Yep.
done the knee on the 5th, but I had the IKD, I think, on the 3rd. And it showed, I think, the like 40-degree mark. I
Yep.
basically had the dip in my power
Oh,
on
right. Interesting. Yep.
IKD test. I could show you it after actually, because
Yeah.
I could send you it, but the guy highlighted it at the time and I said, yeah, I really struggle with, and I always struggled with exercises like lunging and stuff with the knee
Yep.
because of where it would shift. And I still
Yep.
really struggle now with the range of, I feel like I have to kind of slide past a certain point in a groove in my knee to then be
Yep.
able to push through
You
again.
can push through it. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because definitely like a knee extension force curve should sort of look like this sort of bit of a hill that sort of goes up, and the peak angle should be about 60 to 70 degrees, and then it kind of taper down a little bit. But there, yeah, if there's a dip at around 30 or 40, there's something there that whether or not there's missing knee extension strength or open chain strength or yeah, you could probably pick a few things to bits, but yeah, that's an interesting finding. So yeah, it'd be fascinating to see what the knock on
Yeah,
of
I'll
the
send you it
surgery.
off and have a
Yeah,
look. And
no, send it through. That'll be cool to look at. Yeah, well, it's a shame. Like, and it is. It's. Do you guys? Do the females train at the same facility as the men? Do you share the same training ground and gym and all that kind of stuff, or no?
So so the men actually have their own training ground now.
Yeah.
They took over like a rugby club and sort of it was temporary and then they just sort of I think have run with it and that's now theirs. So we share with the academy
Okay.
boys. So we're on the same old campus where the men were way back
Yep.
when.
Yep.
But they've redone everything and it's very nice and very new and they're constantly making improvements, which is really good.
Yep.
And it is good facility, it's really good.
Yep. And surely you don't get bumped for the under 18s team.
No, to be fair,
Yep.
like I said, I think one of the struggles we have is sharing the gym, and it's
Yep.
quite a small gym. And I mean, the other day, again, just standard of football. So we have a dome which has got some stuff, but I went into the gym and all the boys were in there testing, and there was no space at all. And I got told I had to go to the dome and do my session, and it was like 30 degrees and the dome was sweltering and I was like I had a migraine after 2 hours in there. And then on the Friday, I went into the gym again. I'd been told to come in and got told we could use the corner. And then the guy was like, oh, like we spoke to whoever, like you guys can't be in here. Like we're going to be done at 11, but you can't be in here for, it was like another 50 minutes. And I kind of kicked off because again, I was like, it's a joke that I have to go
Yeah.
to the dump where I can't use any equipment.
Yeah.
It's in like I was in there the other day for 2 hours. So like there are those challenges. I think they're trying to time it better this year with the
Yeah.
boys in and the different teams, but
Yeah.
apparently the new gym being built so that there's then double gym and access, which again will be brilliant because I think they are aware of the problem.
Yeah.
That's, I've come from playing the game where we didn't even have a gym. So I'm like
Yeah.
grateful I got one, but then I'm also like, come on,
Yeah,
there's
come on. It's 2025. We can all share the same toys, and
yeah,
yeah, the
different.
boys can be in the same place as the girls, and vice versa. It's yeah. Oh, very good. Moving on to probably finding out some of, I guess, some unexpected things around the journey itself. Have you found and discovered any things, or around the ACL rehab itself, like have you learned anything in particular? I know we talked about silver linings and finding silver linings and dealing with things, but has there been like a big learning moment? I think you probably alluded it maybe to it already, like just listen to your body, that kind of stuff. Is that probably been the big thing, or has there been any other major lessons learned along the way?
Yeah, no, do you know what? And I mean, I've not really shared this story with anyone yet, because it's quite raw and it's quite new.
Mm.
But I will actually share it because I think it's quite important and it's a bit of a weird, so I'm very, I always say trust the process. And like when I injured my knee, I didn't really understand why. You ask yourself the question, why now? All of these sorts of things. And basically, bit of a weird story. I'll try and say it quickly. But when I finished my surgery, my surgeon, he saw a mole at the top of my leg.
Yeah.
And he basically said to me, I don't like the look of that. And he was like, I want you to go and get that checked. And I was like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I'm blonde, I'm fair. So I was a bit
Yeah.
like, I have got a lot of moles, but I was like, okay, like I always wear factor 50. So I was like, no, I'll get that checked, that's fine. So I went to my doctor and I just moved house. So I'd seen a new doctor in Bristol and he was really lovely. And he said, no, like he's done the right thing, like it's better to get them checked. And he looked at it and again he was like, yeah, he's like, I'll be honest, I don't particularly like the look of that mole. And then he
Mm.
said, let me just have a little check everywhere else. And so he had another look and he found another mole on my leg and he said, I don't like the look of that one either. And he said, so do you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer you. He was like, let's get you checked properly,
Yeah.
young as well. So, and this has only just happened recently. So you're talking last week.
Mm.
So I went back, basically saw her at the hospital, and they were like, no, we really don't like that mole. We're going to
Yeah.
remove it and do some
Cut it
checks.
out.
So they cut it out and they done some checks. And then I got a call within, I think it was like less than 2 weeks. And basically they called me and my mum kept saying, have they come back to you about that mole yet? Have they come back
Mm.
to you? And I was like, oh, like, no, they're really busy, but they will. And
Mm.
then I got a call and I basically got told like that I needed to come in for a wound check and that they needed to speak to me and da da da. So I told my mum, and my mum's a well, she used to be head and neck cancer nurse specialist.
Mm.
So she's very good. And she was like, I'm going to be honest. She was like, if they're bringing you back in,
Mm.
I don't want you to worry, but that's
Yeah.
also not a positive sign. And I was a bit like, because I mean, I'm 31. I'm just like, oh, I wouldn't even
Mm.
think of anything. So I was like, oh, I'll be fine. So went back in, and basically they said that it's been checked and it's a melanoma in situ.
Mm.
So it
Jesus.
yeah, so it was quite scary because my
Yeah.
mum was telling me before, she was like, you don't want a melanoma,
Mm.
these things. And you don't really think about it, right? You just, you
Mm.
know, life's life. And
Yeah.
so I've had it removed and they said, look, the really positive thing is we've removed it. They was like, brilliant for you to just recognize and get in
Yeah.
there quickly because this could have basically, become live at any
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So I now have to go back for more surgery of the area
Yeah. So
because they
take
need
above and below, and then
yeah,
deeper
so they
and
need to
wider.
take a bit more of a chunk
Yeah.
out of my leg. It's my right calf just below.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I've got to have more taken out and have that checked to see if it's,
Yeah.
spread
Still.
deeper
Yeah.
and so on. And obviously, it's a bit of a weird one because my mum then messaged me and was like, and I know you don't want to hear this. And she was like, but this is why you done your knee. And she was like, I know I don't want to give you, I've questioned why now? But she was like, if you were playing and
Yeah.
you were, she was like, there is no way you would have gone and get your moles checked. I know you. She was
Yes.
like, you're too busy. You
Yeah.
would have said, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm fine. It's fine." And
Yeah.
she said, so butterfly effect. And she was like, I know you don't want to hear it, but I am telling you now,
Yeah.
you've done your knee because your
Yeah.
surgeon's the one who told you, go get your mole checked.
Yeah.
And you've now got it right at the start
Yeah.
before, because she said if
Before
you
it's
had
got
left it like a
invasive.
month, if I'd
Yeah.
left it any longer,
Yeah.
and that could have been deadly. So
Yeah.
she was like, in hindsight, just trust the process. It was all meant to
Yeah.
happen. You've now been sorted for your mole. Your
Yeah.
knee's going to recover. You're going to be back better and stronger.
Mm.
And this it. So I haven't actually told that story to anyone, but that's actually what I've been going through the last
Yeah.
month or so. And it's something that I'm now like, okay, I do trust the process. It's
Yeah.
happened for a reason. I'm getting sorted and I'm all good. But yeah, I think that's maybe something that I'm like, there is more to life than football. And
Yeah.
sometimes things like this put perspective of everything. So
That's
that's my
a
little story for you of
Oh,
to
thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that with us. I've got my own personal story with melanoma too. I had one kind taken out when I was 26. Same similar story to you. I
oh
had
yeah,
one, yeah, I had one in between my shoulder blades. I wasn't playing professional sport.
yeah,
I got bullied into going to get a skin check by my mother, and she said, and I was at university, poor uni student, didn't see the value in going. I'm 26, young, fit, healthy, whatever.
yeah.
And she goes,
No
just
best.
go get your skin checked. I'll pay the medical bill because she knows that I couldn't afford it. So she goes, I'll pay the bill. You get the money back and go have some drinking money and go and have a great time. That mole had a melanoma in it, and like I didn't even register at the time. 26, you think you're 10 foot
Yeah,
tall and bulletproof, but same story. They captured it at the right level at the right time. Everything was cut out above and below and below. They gave me a 99% survival rate if I was still
yeah,
alive after 5 years. And 15, 20 years later, I'm still here. So that's the thing, right? Like it's you got to get these things early. Obviously, completely off topic to ACLs, but these things can be really harmful. But you need to get them early. But it's a really important lesson where you just get perspective on life, right? Like when you have something serious like this, it's kind of puts the struggles that you get with ACL injury into perspective because it could have been. you know, a shit ton worse. Because as rightfully as your mum said, like you could have just let this slide. If you're playing football for the last, 6, 12 months, it wouldn't have registered. You were like, oh, that's skin, that's fine. And potentially by the time it got real grotty and you think, oh shit, that actually looks bad. And
Yeah,
it's like sometimes it's too late and all of a sudden you're feeling a lump in your neck and
yeah,
shit's getting really bad. So that's
yeah.
well, thanks for sharing that story. That was really, I think that's also that little lesson in there too, is that, these things are hard. ACL injuries are hard and the rehab's hard, but I think it's nice to find that perspective every now and again too, because no matter how bad it is that you're going through, there's often some life circumstance that is probably a bit harder than the ACL injury. But
Happens for a reason, even if you don't quite understand the reason. I think
yeah,
that's my trust the process. You're where
yeah,
you're meant to be at exactly the right time.
yeah, yeah. No, that's good lessons in there. Couple more left because I know we've probably pushed on. You've got a bit more. You probably got to go out and have a coffee, or go and look after your dog, or maybe go and do some rehab of some description. Any athletes that are following your journey, what are some a young female, young male, goes out and injured their ACL last week, and they're looking up to you for I guess advice and wisdom and experience. Is there any things you can share with an athlete that might help them navigate the journey a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I mentioned it a bit earlier is trusting your body and
Mm,
understanding. I think as athletes we all push through stuff, right? When the game's tough at 90 minutes, you push through, you find that in a bit of strength and so on, but don't push through pain. I think that's something that I've definitely learned is discomfort's fine, but pain isn't. And also, it is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't feel you've got to do 101 things to start with. Take it each step, and every day is progress, no matter how small. And, the reality is it's tough. It's difficult. You can't lie about that. You can't say, oh, it's fine. You're going to no, it's going to be real tough. And there's going to be days where you think, gosh, why me? Why now? Or whatever it may be. But I think the best thing I can say is just trust that your application, that you are giving your all. So, I know that if I wake up and I decide to not go to the gym, that's going to be on me, right? But
yeah,
every single day, no matter how tough or no matter how tired or how much I just don't have any mojo that day, that's on me and that's the decision I have to make. And I think if you can just keep holding yourself accountable, then I believe that that will show off and that will, come to the surface when you're back, when you're playing, and how good you come back and how strong you come back. That will say a lot about you and the journey you've been on. And it's not about how long it takes. Everyone has different journeys. So if you get back at 17 months, doesn't mean you didn't apply yourself and doesn't mean you didn't do everything needed. Everyone's journey is different. But
yeah,
just to really know that you've given your all. And, my partner often says to me, and she's always like, you're so disciplined. If that was me, I wouldn't be doing that. Or, oh, I
mm,
can't believe you've done that. And I'm like, it's not, because until you're in this position, you have no other choice. You have to be disciplined because I want to get back playing football. So
mm,
if I choose to not do that, I'm not going to get back. And I
yeah,
don't just want to get back and play football. I want to get back and be good. I want to be
yes,
better than good. So they're the decisions that I'm, dealing with daily. And I just think the best thing I can say is remember how good you are. Remember the feeling of scoring that goal or
yep,
playing for your country, or remember the feeling of how proud and how good it makes you feel. So when those times, which there's going to be a lot of them, you're really at your lowest, just think I'm here, but it's going to be worth it because I'm going to have the feeling of remembering that or back to that. And that's sort of what I try and tell myself when I'm in the gym and I've
yep,
been there for 5 hours some days,
yep,
finally finishing up on my CV, or, I've done my plyos, I've done my strength, I've done my rehab. 5 hours later, and I'm telling myself, why am I here? But I'm telling myself, well, because actually, hopefully, my goal will be I can go to the World Cup in Brazil with Ireland, and
yep,
that's where I want to get to, and that's my motivation. So just never lose sight of why you're doing it, and no matter how tough it is, remember to apply yourself and actually be proud of your effort and your discipline.
yep. That's awesome. Really strong messages there. All right, Lily, last one. What can we as health professionals do better to help support ACL injured athletes along the way? Is there, yeah, with all the physios and this even extends past ACL injuries and even maybe some of your past other injuries that you've experienced. Yeah, what are some things, not only physios but all health professionals? What can we do better as a general population to help our athletes through their journey?
It's tough, like I said, there's so many
Mm,
different aspects and there's so many different physios and so on. I think going through what I'm going through now, I think get to know the person you're dealing
mm,
with and them on a deeper level because we all deal with things differently, right?
yeah,
So I wear my face. So if I'm happy, I'm happy. If I'm annoyed,
yeah,
whatever it is, you'll see it. That's just me.
yeah,
And it's not personal. So if I'm working with you and I'm coming in, especially the first 2, 3 months when I'm in pain, if I'm not chatty and bubbly and
mm,
nothing to do with you, it's
yeah,
not you, just me dealing with me. And I think that's a key one of like just letting them be however they need to be. And it's
yeah,
not, when somebody's crying and upset, you don't go, "Are you okay?" Because clearly they're not. And it's the
sure,
same when I first done my ACL. Everyone just said, "Are you okay? How are you?" And I just thought, well, do you want me to say I'm buzzing as I'm hobbling about on my crutches in
yeah,
pain? And I find that that's a life skill, right? If you can word it in a different way of, Lil,
yeah,
how was your weekend? What did you do? Did you go see your family? How are your family? Or
yeah,
you can poise
mm,
different questions as opposed to the generic, "Are
yeah,
you okay?" Because
yeah,
the amount of people I responded to and said, "No, I'm
no,
not." And they're a bit like, "Oh, awkward," but I don't really understand what the response you'd want. So that's
yeah,
something
that's
that,
right.
and that's not just for physios. I think that's people in general.
Yeah, that's right. If you're going to
Don't
ask that
ask people
question, you
if
need
they're
to
okay.
follow up.
Um, yeah, that's one. But I think as the journey goes on, again, somebody like me, I'm very, I want I want it clear. I
Yep,
want, what does this week look like? What are my targets? What do I need to tick off? Where am I at? And obviously I've raised that to my physio and she's then implemented all the things that I've asked for, me saying, "I want to see my numbers. If I've done that testing, can you put that in so that when I do it again, what am I? Have I improved? Have I got worse?" I need to see that. And I think being clear and giving clarity is the biggest thing. Like I have so many questions all the time. Why am I
mm,
doing this? Should I be doing that? Why am I not doing that? And again, it's not personal. I'm curious. I want to know why. I'm not challenging, but I need to know for me. And again, I think the best thing you can do is give them the clarity and go, "Look, you're going to do this because it's really helping with
yeah,
that. We need you to hit this number. And the reason is because," and it gives you then that confidence when they're explaining it and telling you, because if you're just doing an exercise and you don't really know why, you don't
mm,
really have the faith. So
yep,
if you're sat there demoing me and saying, "Right, I've done this with 30 others who done their ACL and this really worked for this. They had a bit of pain here, but once they push through,
yeah,
like, let's go." And then bring that motivation and give it to them because you can see that they're low.
yep,
So when they're in the gym, don't just be on your phone and just watching them. What are you doing to really drive their
mm,
session? Because that's how I view it. It's still a session. You need to drive them. You can't just watch and facilitate and just,
yep,
we could all do that. I might as well go gym on my own. I don't need to be supervised. I want someone that's going to drive me, almost like a PT.
yep,
Come on, do this. And that's what will get the best out of me. But that's me, right? As a person,
yep,
that's everyone's different. But I think just know your person and ask for what they want. And not everyone speaks what they want, but if they then got that rapport with you, they should be able to say, "Look, I'm struggling today. Just let me be," or, "I'm going to need you a bit more today."
yep.
So
Yeah.
that's probably what I would give.
Yeah, I love that. It's just such a simple question. It's like, what do you need? What can I help you with? Like it's looking at the person in front of you, having that emotional intelligence to read the room. If their body language is off, if their mood's flat, you see them on a daily basis. You know the highs, you know the lows, you know what their normal days, their good days are. That's the beauty of working on the at the coalface in a club and working with athletes day to day. It's a bit trickier when you work in a clinic and you might not see everyone once a week or once a fortnight or whatever. But still over time you'll get to know their moods and what makes them tick. And I do like that. Like ask them how they are, but in a different way. Like how's your family? How'd you sleep last night? How are things? Like this whole how's your knee? Yeah, like I know a lot of athletes hate speaking about their knee over time. You know, there's just like their constant conversation comes back to their knees. Like I'm more than just my knee.
I think,
Yeah, I've got a dog. I've got, I've got cats. I've
yeah.
got, like I've got kids, like, these kind of things. Like,
Just to elaborate on that, I do think, especially when it's raw. So, like I said to you, I was back in club at 2 weeks
mm,
post-op. So obviously everyone can see you're hobbling around on crutches. And like I said, I can't tell you how many times people said, "Are you okay?"
mm,
And it was literally about 100 times a day because you're seeing,
yeah,
oh, how are you getting on? Not great. Like,
yeah,
and again, that's probably me. I'm then walking around moody, but I was like, people don't understand the concept of you're then repeating yourself 100 times
yeah,
and again, in the end, I just started being like, yeah, I'm all right.
yeah,
Ta. But like it's just generic, but I don't think people understand the impact that silly, and I know they're trying to be nice, but it just a
yeah,
tiny comment, it's just you wouldn't say it. So I think to anyone that then sees people who go through injury, and it's not just ACL, if
yeah,
people are in the gym and they're injured, don't say, "Are you okay?" I think
yeah.
that's a really key one because they're not. They're going to be
No,
struggling.
yeah,
Talk about something else. Say, "Cool, your arms look good. You've been
yeah.
working on your
That's it.
arms."
Get a little compliment. Yep. Quads are
Yeah,
looking massive today.
just
Swelling's coming down. Good job. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and that's just a personal skill for everyone to
Yeah.
sort of help each other out.
Yeah. Oh, Lily, you've been like, fascinating chat tonight, and really, really raw, transparent, honest. I've loved it. I've loved hearing the insight, and am grateful for your time and sharing your stories with us. And thank you. Is I guess all I can say is by wrapping things up. I really appreciate everything you shared with us tonight. So
No, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's always a weird one just talking about everything your knee and sort of the journey, but I've enjoyed it. I think it's really good to keep raising and understanding the ACL and
yep,
everyone's journey and what it takes. But yeah, I really appreciate obviously everything you're doing for all your clients back over there in Australia. And again, I've found great help from your pages and lots of your information. So again, I think really cool to have kind of had this conversation, and I will continue to follow and maybe even ask more questions about what can I
uh,
do to get back. But yeah, I'm really grateful and thank you again.
pleasure. Yeah, happy to help out however way possible. And I'm sure, people that are tuning in, both physios and patients and athletes that are watching this one, would have certainly learnt a ton from your experiences. So no, I appreciate everything that you chatted about tonight. Well, guys, that's it for tonight. We've got a few more episodes coming up. We've got another professional netball athlete coming up, and a retired football player coming up too in the next few weeks and months. So stay tuned for that one. Until next time, thanks very much and good night.